there's a very delicate balance to strike between communicating a message, but not overwhelming people with information.
So you want to do the intro?
Yeah, let's do it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to DNS Unfiltered with Mikey Pruitt, and this week with me, Abigail Hendren. Mikey, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Abigail, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at DNS Filter.
Yeah, so my title here at DNS Filter is Assistant Brand Marketer. I've been here for almost 2 years, get to work with the lovely Mikey. Pretty pumped to make my DNS Unfiltered debut. I've only been yanking his arm to get me on here for about the past 2 years, if that's how long I've been here. So pretty pumped to be on here today.
Well, I'm really excited to have you. And I think we should do like a kind of a meta episode where we kind of bestow upon the audience, not like, not exactly like that, but, give some tips and pointers that we've learned over the years for marketing purposes. So Abigail, if you didn't already notice, is a natural on camera.
Well, thank you.
And I think it's natural with training. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into first. But I wanted to preface that with, why would you want to, build a new skill that is something you don't have, like being on camera? Like, why is that important? And I don't know, do you want to answer, like, why would being on camera be an important skill to have?
Yeah, I think being on camera, especially in this day and age, 2025, everyone has a little mini video camera at the palm of their hand. Everyone can record a video. Everyone can take a video of themselves. So I think, especially with my generation, there's just a lot more access to experiencing yourself on camera. It's something that has been available basically since I was a kid, since I was old enough to use technology. And I think a lot of it is just about finding like, hey, I've always felt really comfortable talking to people or talking in front of crowds. And how does that play into my future career? Because you want to do something later on that you're comfortable with, that you feel like you have a natural ability for, and that you enjoy. And this is something I enjoy. I like getting to come talk to you and all of those types of things. So while it might not be the most like necessary skill set for a graphic designer, for a brand marketer, for someone who works in cybersecurity, I definitely think it's something that can help you no matter what you're doing.
I would argue that it is a necessary skill for almost any profession. Like if you think of the like work from home culture that we're in, being on camera is like almost a daily occurrence at work. And if you are, let's say, a shy-ish, nerdy type MSP owner operator, or even someone in the IT department, maybe your best skill is not talking to other people on camera, especially like just talking to the camera. Like now I'm looking directly at the camera, like, and I'm like all by myself, and it's very, it hurts and inside
Once
just a little bit. It feels very awkward.
Yes.
But if you want to like get new customers, or if you want to, sell something to your boss, to your board, you need some skills that could be presented well on camera, just by the nature of the world we live in.
I agree. And even if it's not the most, say, if you're not the most natural on camera, if it's not your forte, I still think public speaking skills are so important, especially in marketing, because people want to buy things or they want to work with people, especially in an increasingly digital age. There's limited human interaction, especially we're all work from home. Mikey and I talk almost every day, but we never see each other in person, maybe once a year. So I think it's really, one time a year. So I think it's really important to have, some sort of comfort on camera so you can continue making connections. And that way you can better market to your audience. Like I said, people want to work with other people. They don't want to talk to the chatbot all the time about your product.
I think that was the key word. People want to buy and sell and work with people. So I am curious. So Abigail, one of the immediate things I noticed when you started DNS Filter is your comfort level on camera is like off the charts. Like I am comfortable on camera because I forced myself to do it. And now it's like, okay, it's fine. You're not going to die because you're on camera.
Well, you are good at it. You've had a lot of good practice. So
thank you.
Don't sell yourself short.
But I'm curious where this started from, where your camera presence became something that was, that you noticed like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this.
Yeah. I think if you asked one of my parents, they'd say it's always been there. It's always just been something naturally. Speaking in front of people has never scared me. So I took that into account when I was considering career options. And I think starting in middle school or high school, I got involved with broadcast, like the school newspaper and the journalism. And I just really loved it. It was always something that came naturally to me. So when I went to college, I actually was training for broadcast journalism. I wanted to be a reporter. So I spent a lot of time doing mock broadcasts on local TV stations and things like that. I ended up changing my mind and realizing while I do enjoy being on camera, I also really enjoy being creative. And that's what I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. And I felt like I could be a lot more creative with a branding element. But luckily, like we've been talking about, on-camera presence can really play into branding and marketing and all the things that you and I do. So got kind of lucky that it did end up impacting what I did in my career, even though that original career where I kind of trained to be on camera with broadcast journalism isn't what I ended up doing.
So you are gifted with this ability naturally, but you also
You're making me blush.
did a lot of time like training. You got a lot of experience, exposed yourself to something to refine it and make it, I would say, a specialty of yours. So I think it's important to call out, like, even though if you're not good at something, anything, specifically on camera presence is what we're talking about here, but you can train and get experience into being better. That's what I have had to do over the last 2 years. Just get experience, train, treat it as anything else you would learn. Like, how do you install a VM on Proxmox? You're going to go do some research. You're going to, run some commands, like that type of thing. And eventually you're going to be better at it than when you started.
Exactly. The more you try it, the better, right? The further you get from that first time where it's really scary, the easier it'll get.
So let's say
it's just like learning any new skill. You got to research it and figure out what works best for you.
Exactly. So if you overcome this fear of being on camera, what do you think are some of the important things to point out? Like, if you're going to record a video for your customer base, like say you have like a new product that came out and you want to send a video message to your customer base, like maybe they want to buy it. What are some of the key points you would say to incorporate into that?
It's going to sound super cheesy, but be yourself. I mean, the biggest thing is, like I said, people want to buy from people. I think, especially in 2025, people are kind of starting to get sick of the whole corporate jargon. I'm putting on a front to make sure my company looks good. People just want to hear, hey, we do cybersecurity. This is, how our product's going to work for you. And you should trust me because I'm being real with you. I'm a person. I'm not trying to, put on any front. I think the more you can be, your audience will pick up on that and feel more comfortable. A huge part of marketing is trusting your audience, trusting you. If my audience trusts me and feels like I'm not lying to them, I'm not being fake on camera, they're going to be more willing to trust the message I'm trying to get across about our product. And so I think the biggest thing is just to be natural, be yourself. Don't try to make yourself this persona on camera. Just be you. Do what you do, And it sounds really simple, but I feel like that's the truth.
100% agree. Like, authenticity really breaks through all of the junk we all read on like LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and all these places. Like, you can tell if someone cares about what they're talking about pretty easily, unless they're just really, really good at faking it.
Unless they're just really good at faking it. But I think people can tell authenticity these days. Like, you can pick up on it pretty well and kind of gauge for yourself whether or not, because even if, it may not be exactly what you're looking for. If you trust someone and you think that they're telling the truth and they're not trying to put on some sort of act over another, that might put you ahead against a competitor, in my eyes.
And I'm so glad that you used that as the example. I was not sure what you were going to say, but that is like the perfect way to say it. And something I hadn't really thought about, but yeah, like being your authentic self is a great sales tool.
Because at the end of the day, with marketing, you're trying to find a perfect match. I don't want to market to people who don't have a need for our product. I don't want to, target audiences that already have a DNS security solution that's already working really well for their needs. You want to find the people who need what you need and who will listen to you and what you're trying to say authentically, and they need it. So it's on both sides. It's, are you a good match for our product, and are we a good match for what they need at the end of the day? So you don't want to put on any front, because then later on they might be like, oh, what was this? You were acting like this, and now I'm using the product. It's nothing like that. You're looking to find a perfect match. It's like a matchmaking service, right?
Exactly. That's kind of what marketing is.
Hmm.
So let's talk about another piece of marketing. So we've been talking about like cameras and
Hmm.
video, but let's go back to like design, graphics, messaging. What do you think are some of the pitfalls that people, when they're designing some marketing piece, maybe it's
Hmm.
a an ad or a billboard or some you know a visual image that's going to appear somewhere? What are some of the places people fail on that?
I think this is an easy one, but one thing that we as an industry in cybersecurity can struggle with is not making our message consumable. Because sometimes you want to market a product and say it does this, and this, and it's amazing. And it's like, well, I'm scrolling on Instagram. I just saw a cute dog video. I'm not in great like the mental mode to switch to technical jargon and go through all this. So I think the biggest thing is making it digestible and making it match your audience. Like our posts are different on LinkedIn for social media. Like the visual posts we put out on LinkedIn are going to be different than what we put out on Instagram because there are different audiences. You're looking for different things on each platform. And I think it's important to match the message you're trying to get across with the mindset that the user is going to be in at that point. So I think a big mistake we make is just saying, hey, this is the information, take it. Now, on the flip side, another mistake you can make with design is making it too aesthetically pleasing to the point that it doesn't communicate a message. There's a weird balance to strike there. You don't want to be like, this graphic is so beautiful, everyone's going to love it. Sure, I love it. I passed it. It looks great. But did it get the message across that we needed it to? Did it tell people what booth we're going to be at our conference next week? No, everyone was just like, cool graphic, and then swiped. Especially right now, it's like our attention spans on social media are already so minimal. They're like this big. There's a very delicate balance to strike between, you know, communicating a message, but not overwhelming people with information. So it's not the most straightforward answer because, like I said, it's a balance, but it's important to make sure that you're not doing too much of either, I think.
You mentioned some really awesome points there. First, I did not mention that Abigail also mans the DNS filter social media accounts. But one of the cool things that you just mentioned is that you have different messaging, different
Mm-hmm.
aesthetics for each platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important. LinkedIn, like we say, it's very B2B. Like you're talking to other businesses, you're talking to your coworkers, you're talking to potential clients. Whereas Instagram, like we might take some of our funnier, like our meme content there because people are looking for things that are a little sillier on Instagram. It's a little less business focused than, say, LinkedIn would be. So I definitely take that into consideration when posting. Like if we're trying to hop on a trend, then, maybe Facebook isn't the best place for it. You kind of just have to consider your audience in each platform, which luckily with, software and different tools, it's pretty easy to gauge what works where. But I definitely think knowing your audience and especially knowing your platform is very important with
Yeah,
marketing today.
knowing your audience and the platform that you're trying to reach them on
Mm-hmm.
really plays heavily into what you produce.
Definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to get the same message across. It's just a matter of what medium is gonna get you there.
I'm curious. So like I do this all the time. I'm using the AI tools that are at my
Yes,
disposal to like create craft messaging. And I'll say like,
definitely.
this is for LinkedIn or this is for Instagram or this is
Mm-hmm.
for my CEO or this is for the board of directors
Yes.
and set the tone for AI. Is that something that you guys use I know I do. I'm on the marketing
Yeah,
team.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, especially a lot of people are afraid of AI, but I'm more on the side of what all can it do for us? What all can it optimize? Typically, I'll take like, this is the general message I want to get out. This is the caption I'm kind of toying with. And I'll say, now optimize this for, say, on Instagram, our audience is a little bit smaller just because cybersecurity isn't as active on Instagram as they are on LinkedIn or Reddit or Twitter. So I'll say optimize this for Instagram growth and LinkedIn engagement and et cetera, et cetera. And it's really amazing seeing what it can do and how I can just be like, okay, great. I trust it. Like let's run with it.
That was cool because you're kind of talking about like the call to action. Do you want
Hmm.
engagement, like likes or thumbs up or whatever it is? Do you want comments? Do you want people to reshare?
Yes.
So have that as part of the equation of what you want to produce. Like, what is the call to
Hmm.
action you want? And like the call to action used to be like, a button on the image.
Hmm.
Like that may not be the best call to action depending on the platform.
Hmm. I mean, meeting your
And the
goals is all about knowing what your goal is. Like if I want to see a 3.26 engagement rate on LinkedIn, then I have to know that I want to improve engagement on LinkedIn. That has to be a goal that you're working toward. I can't just be like, hey, I want our LinkedIn to be better. You have to identify your goals in order to reach
better,
them. So I
just
think that's
better.
really important.
What did you say? 3.68 better, more engagement than like the last post. So that
Yeah.
is something that the nerdy folks in the audience can actually look at to see like, was this successful? God, we didn't even talk
Hmm.
about that. Like, what is a metric of success that you always look for?
A metric of success that I look for on our posts is definitely, I think engagement is huge because you can get pushed to 1,000 accounts. But if you take the time, even if it's just one person, we put out a post and only one person stops, engages with it, and says, hey, this was really cool, this really helped. That's still one person that you got your message across to in a way that had a more direct impact. If they're still taking the time to write out, hey, this really helped, I think that's a really, really, really powerful metric, especially in a time where like our social media feeds are so saturated. Like you might have seen 10 other cybersecurity companies post something similar before you came across our post. So if we stood out enough to someone for them to stop, either like it, repost it, reshare it, comment on it, then that means that it had to resonate with them in some way. So I think the more engagement, the better, in my opinion.
So is there like an unwritten rule? And I'm asking for myself here. Is there like an unwritten rule on like how often you should post on a platform?
The trouble with social media that I find really interesting is that it changes all the time. Like you'll see the algorithm says you need to post minimum 5 times a week, or the algorithm says if you post twice a day, you'll get pushed out to twice as many people. I feel like the statistics and the algorithm is changing all the time. So the best thing you can do is post what you genuinely think will be meaningful to your audience, because you don't want to oversaturate your audience's feed with saying, hey, here's this random thing I put out because LinkedIn said I should be posting 6 times a week. That's not impactful.
Mhm.
That's not going to bring engagement. That's just, you trying to follow an algorithm. And I think if you're not putting intention and once again, goals behind what you're posting, then it's not going to work the way you want it to. So the most important thing is just to like be authentic with your content, post when you think you should post, and post things that you think will be meaningful to your audience. And if you're doing that, you should be okay, I think.
I've also seen, I totally agree. And I've seen that consistency matters, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily to the audience as much, but the algorithm really is more preferable if you are consistently posting at a time and date, like, Mondays at
Yeah.
noon or like that. The algorithm's like, oh, we're expecting your noon post. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know how these algorithms, they're fairly in depth from what I understand.
Yeah,
So
I
they can
agree. I do think
understand the cadence of a person. So does that matter?
I do think consistency matters not only for you and just knowing like, hey, this is part of my job. I want to make sure I'm consistent with it. I think it I guess it does matter for the algorithm, but the good thing is that at least for DNS filter, we always have some sort of message we're trying to share with our audience, so we never run into an issue of consistency. My
Yeah,
general
you're
rule of
like you're
thumb.
like pulling back the consistency. You're
Yeah,
like, that's
I
too
can't tell
many
you all how
today.
many times I've messaged Mikey like, "Hey, is it okay if I post this a little later? We have so much going on this week." So that's the beauty of having evergreen content is if you have something you do want to get out, but it's not time sensitive. DNS filter, our rule, we post 5 times a week, typically on weekdays because we're a B2B business, so it makes sense to be sharing on weekdays when our audience is most online, especially with LinkedIn. And that's the consistency I like, but that's also like the minimum amount we could get by with our social calendar. Like I've said, we have so many things that we are really passionate about sharing with our audience. So I'm struggling to even get a minimum of 5 posts a week, but I also want to make sure those 5 posts digest. So that's kind of why I choose not to post and why Serena, my manager, and myself have talked about not posting on the weekends because those 5 posts I see all the time when I get on LinkedIn, like, hey, this was posted 2 weeks ago, and it'll be at the top of my feed, and I'll just be seeing it. So it all depends on the algorithm, and I don't want posts to get lost because we're doing twice a day or something, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a thing you have to find out for yourself. You know, what's comfortable for you. How often does inspiration strike you to do that? And what is the audience? How much can they digest? How much do they care to digest? And how much does the algorithm play into like posting? So you kind of have to find that sweet spot. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah, there's
And
no
that sweet
right or
spot
wrong
may
answer.
change.
Yeah, it changes. There's no right or wrong answer. It's all about what works for you and what works for your business. But I agree. I think the biggest things are posting authentic content and making sure you're consistent about posting. You don't want to post 5 times a week and be like, this is great, and then not post for 2 weeks.
So you kind of hinted at this a moment ago about cybersecurity specifically, and like you know, MSPs posting or companies that are in cybersecurity like DNS Filter. Like we have very technical content, but
Yes.
we want to keep it generic enough to give people, you know, that people can digest it. Like everyone can digest it, understand what we're saying. How do you like avoid that jargon? You're like ChatGPT.
Yeah, I do. I
That's my
do
answer.
use ChatGPT and Gemini quite a bit. Be like, hey, explain this to me like I'm 5. Like Mikey will send something
Eli5, yeah.
like, hey, I found this Python script that would make your design work a lot quicker, and I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, explain this to me like I'm 5. I like
That's a true story,
it is a
actually.
true story. Like I'm not even just using that like an example. Mikey said, hey, do you know Python? And I was like, what? The snake?
I'm like, you just activate a virtual
Yeah.
environment in Python, and you can run the script. It'll be super easy. And you're like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, easy peasy. I'm sorry. Can we track back to the question? I've lost it. I think.
Avoiding jargon in
Oh,
cybersecurity specific marketing or just technical marketing. How does that differ?
it's important to remember. It's like for every MSP we have that we're marketing to, and we want to make sure they understand what our product does. We also have a single user who might be viewing that and being like, "Hey, I want to up my cybersecurity practices." So that's why it can be so important, not only just for digestibility on a feed when you're not necessarily in work mode, in technical jargon mode. It's also important, especially with what we do. DNS filter, we always say we're the first line of defense against cyber attacks. So we're very marketable to an everyday user who just wants to avoid some phishing emails and to step up their security in their digital environments. So I think it's important to, at least for me, it's helpful because I'm not as experienced with all the technical jargon. I feel like I have a unique perspective of being able to dumb it down because I'm like, do I understand this? Because if I don't understand it, then an average user is not going to understand it. In the same way, you can say, explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like my dad's going to read this post and try to understand what it means. And if my dad can understand it, then we're probably safe for the audience to understand it. But I think the biggest thing is considering your audience and what all they may or may not understand before you press send.
So yeah, know your audience. What type of, speaking of the audience, like what type of feedback, how does that feedback get weighed in? Like whether it's the engagement metrics or someone actually like sends an email back, or like how does all that filter into the whole process?
Yeah, I think luckily we have monitoring tools that will help us identify those things and see, it'll identify outliers for us of like, hey, this got 0% engagement on this platform. Maybe don't post this type of content there anymore. Is it worth your time at that point if you're finding 0% engagement? But also comparing metrics and seeing, hey, like this is a real example with DNS filter. Our engagement was up like 336% on Instagram this one week, and we realized it was because we were posting native photos instead of a graphic or an article. So it seems that our Instagram user base is more inclined to engage with just a regular photo. So then we can kind of take that and test things. The beauty is we have all the time in the world to try things out and say like, hey, this kind of looks like it's a trend. But a lot of it is just pattern recognition, seeing, hey, this seems like it worked. Let's try that again. Or, hey, this isn't really working. Let's back off of it and focus on something else for the time being.
Yeah, I've totally noticed that too. Like if I post a specific thing, like I post on LinkedIn a lot.
Hmm.
You're like, yeah, I know, I've
Yes,
seen.
I do. I love Mikey's LinkedIn posts. Go give him a follow.
So I've seen it's Road to CISA if you're curious.
Yeah, if you want some really fun AI generated Mikey cropped into things pictures, then you should definitely join because it gives me a good chuckle every week or so at
But
least.
and that's the thing that I was noticing. Like LinkedIn really likes a picture of yourself, preferably,
Hmm.
definitely some human, and
Hmm.
not a like AI picture of yourself, like a real picture.
Exactly.
I like to, I like to dabble in Photoshop, so I like to,
Oh yeah.
make them nice and pretty.
Oh
Like I have
yeah.
this thing, like I just can't post like the ugly photo. Like I don't know what it is, vanity, whatever it happens to be. But
But
LinkedIn
they're
likes
eye
certain
catching
things.
the way you do that because you are so specific about it and you make it themed and you make it fun. I think your audience loves that because even me knowing you, I'm like every time I open up LinkedIn, I'm like, well, what am I going to see from Mikey today? So I think that's your brand and that's a way you like connect with your audience in a way that no one else does. So it's really important to hone in on that and realize what you like and what your audience comes to expect from you.
I like that, your brand. So the speaking of your brand, how important do you think it is to for people to have like a personal brand? Like you are part of a company, me particularly part of a company, but also like a personal
Mm-hmm.
brand in whatever influencer type of thing you um it kind of
Yeah.
gets the word kind of gets associated with that
Yeah.
together. But like that kind of builds the authenticity. Like if you're a owner of an IT company, a MSP or something, having a personal brand is probably going to benefit your business. And I can give you
Mm-hmm.
specific examples of this, but I'm curious what you think first, Abigail.
Yeah, I'm very interested to hear about the examples because I have some in mind as well, but I definitely think like we've talked about, you want people to trust you and you want people to associate you with something so they'll remember you. So I think having your own personal brand is like anytime I see a post similar to Mikey's, I'm like, hey, that's kind of similar to Mikey. And I think it's important to have that recognition of like, hey, this is a Mikey thing, like, or hey, this is a DNS filter thing. Hey, this is an Abigail thing. If you can pick up on that, that means that your audience has some sort of recognition with what you do, who you are, and that's really important for marketing and that level of trust we've talked about. You want people to recognize you for something you do, your authenticity, whatever it is, and then either trust you or be able to refer back to you later. So even if you're not, say, an influencer, if you're not public facing, I think everyone should still have a personal brand that's who they are, whether that's just something you use in your daily life or that's something you use in work. We're all very unique, and I think it's kind of a unique way to think about it of like working on yourself is more like working on my personal brand, working on the brand of Abigail.
The brand of
Abigail
Abigail.
wants to run more in 2025. That's part of my brand, even if that's not necessarily work related. So even if it's not applicable to you in your career, it can be your personal brand, I think is important in your everyday life.
So the most prominent example I've seen in the MSP space, MSP owner named Tom Lawrence. I'm sure most people
Mm-hmm.
listening to this have heard of Tom. Hi, Tom, if you're listening, hope you are. Has a very prominent YouTube channel, a few hundred
Mm-hmm.
thousand subscribers. I think it's like maybe it's even getting close to 1 million. I don't know,
Wow.
but he's been doing YouTube, tutorials for quite a while, and he was just himself. Like, I want to help people, learn how to build a server, install this software, run this other thing. Oh, this new thing I learned. Very technical content, but he
Mm-hmm.
was a MSP owner, and after a little while of doing YouTube, like he no longer had to do marketing because people were flooding him
Mm-hmm.
trying to say, like, can you be our MSP? Like, I've seen your content, really love it. And he's like, well, I don't live near you. So
Yeah.
then he figured out a way to be like an MSP that could work from anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
leveraging local talent to do some of the hands-on
Wow.
stuff while he and his team would do the design work at like their home office,
Mm-hmm.
wherever that was. I forget, but I think Missouri somewhere. Anyway,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. But by him, being on camera, being his authentic self, doing things that he really liked, giving out
Mm-hmm.
education, really benefited his business in a way that he could kind of now, like 10 years later, maybe 15, can kind of step away
Mm-hmm.
and really just focus on the YouTube, public persona aspect, and the business runs in the background, and
Yeah.
it's running on all cylinders.
And that comes back to that level of trust is I've watched his YouTube videos 1,000 times. I know he knows exactly how to do this. I've seen him do this and that. I know he knows his stuff. I want him to be my MSP. To the point that people are reaching out and saying like, hey, I trust you. I've seen your work. I know what you do. So I think even if it's scary, even if it's not your thing, putting yourself out there and showing what you do, even if you don't have an on-camera presence, screen record yourself doing whatever it is that you do, put it out there, and you might be able to help someone, no matter, even if it's just one or two people, you might be able to help someone with what they're doing and build some trust in some level. And I'm interested, Mikey, what you have to say about that, because I feel like you've taken a somewhat similar path. Like you came from the MSP realm and now you're very heavily involved in marketing. You have your own personal brand that's popping off. Like, I'm kind of curious what made you make the switch from being more technically focused to now being more of a marketing persona in some way.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty natural transition. So like I'm doing a very similar things to Tom. Like I'll turn my camera over here and show you what I'm working on over here in the corner.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, look at all those wires.
Wow. Did you set up?
So I had to turn that server off to record this because it is so loud. But I'm doing some testing on some new hardware that I purchased and I'm recording it. And like, we'll put out videos like this is what I learned today on what not to do on your new server, like breaking stuff. And I just think it's fun.
Yeah.
So I like to educate people on how to do things. I want to create like a polished version, but I think people find the value in the things that you did where you messed up. Like I definitely did some things wrong yesterday trying to fix this thing on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like it's brand new. Like I'm dealing with things that I don't know about, but I think people would get benefit out of learning from my mistakes. Like don't do this.
Absolutely. And even like you said, you enjoy that. That's fun for you. And now you're helping people who are like maybe building their own server and they can say, well, you know, that guy, Mikey, he did this and it didn't work. So I'm not even going to try. You're saving someone else time. And, you know, you get to, now you can laugh at yourself, you can do whatever, but it's something you enjoy doing, but you're also building trust with other people who are interested in the same things you are. So say one of those people is later on is looking for a DNS security solution. They're like, hey, what's that? What does Mikey work for? Mikey from DNS Filter. That's what it is. And they can reach out to you even if, even if we're not, you know, depending on their use case, whatever we are, if we're a match or we're not, you can help point them in the right direction for what they're looking for.
And that really is the whole strategy kind of boiled down. Like, and I'm not doing filming me messing up that server to result in DNS filter sales, but it might, you know, that might actually happen.
It's the beauty of making connections. You never know what'll happen. You never know who will need your product later down the road. And now you've built that level of trust from them because you can see me like, hey, I messed this up. You're not going to lie about it. You're going to be like, I did the wrong thing with my server today. And they can trust you not to be like, DNS filter is the best. They know you're going to be real with them and give them the lowdown on what they need. Even though DNS filter is the best. That
it is the best.
It is the best.
Well,
that wouldn't be a lie.
Now with the combination of DNS filter and Zorus, like, woo, it really is a compelling product. I'll leave it there.
Yes, I'm very excited to see what happens as we continue to merge with them.
So now I want to do like some real time like dissecting of responses, starting with a news article that I sent to Abigail earlier. You probably saw this and were like, what are you talking about? So this is like, you could open up your web browser and type cybersecurity breach and you would find one. So this one was from last week. A company that I'm not going to mention had a ransomware attack. They were like a dialysis company, medical company that performed dialysis on people, and they were ransomware. You know, bad things happened. All of their stuff got locked down. They couldn't access things. But I don't want to talk about the story necessarily. I want to talk about the company. If I was that company, if you were that company, what would a good response look like from them?
Yeah, I think it's important for the response to go chiefly to your customers. That's who you're focusing on. You don't want to give, you know, I'm trying to control public image. You want to contact your customers, say, hey, this happened. And in my opinion, I think transparency is always the way. You would rather get ahead of something and not control the narrative, but you would rather get ahead of it, tell your customers exactly what happened, exactly what you're doing to fix it, and hope it all plays out from there. But it would be much worse if you don't tell your customers, they find out about it later, and then they're like, why the heck didn't this company reach out to me and explain this. That's sketchy, that's shady, and then that affects your trust relationship with them. So as much as it's intimidating, because there's always trolls, there's always people who are going to be mad regardless of what you say, I think transparency is the most important part. And also saying, what are we doing to fix this? You don't want to say, hey, this ransomware attack happened. Sorry, your data's safe though. You want to say, this ransomware attack happened. This is what's in place to stop it from happening again. And this is how we're going to move forward to make sure that, no data got breached, yada, yada, yada. And then keep an open line of communication for if anyone has questions. Unfortunately, a lot of those stories do get blown up in the media and then, they kind of get taken with. But I think focusing on your customers first is the most important thing from a brand perspective. Because like we've been saying, I feel like I've said this a lot in the since we've been on, is that trust is the most important thing with your customers. So you don't want to do anything to break that level of trust by keeping something.
And trust has been damaged.
Yeah. Especially when it's already been a little damaged. If there's a security breach or something like that, you don't want to make it any worse by hiding something.
So this particular company, if you go to their homepage right now, has a big banner that's like information on system outages, learn more. They have a phone number, 2 different 1-800 numbers to call that you can ask questions about, and an entire page about what happened, what they're doing to prevent it in the future, that type of thing. So I think they handled it well, and according to what you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, good
company
job.
That I won't say. It's super easy to find if you want to look it up. So then I have another branding exercise, which is for ourselves, DNS Filter, and this podcast.
Ooh.
So Abigail, being such an amazing on-camera talent and a marketing expert, I'm curious what fresh perspectives and what would you bring to this podcast to make it even more fruitful as we go on?
Yeah, I think the chief perspective I have here is an outsider's perspective. Mikey and I have touched on this, but I am no expert on the technical jargon. I do have a pretty good understanding of DNS Filter's product and the general industry terms. But I can bring a fresh perspective, and then I'm like, wait, why does this matter? Why is this interesting to us? So I think it kind of just brings up a whole different level of ways you can dive into things if there's someone who doesn't know all of the ins and outs, and it can help you reach a broader audience of, hey, I don't know that much about cybersecurity, but they're going to explain it to me on this podcast. And I also just think, it's nice for you to have someone to talk to. You have a lot of interesting insights that you can share. And if you're doing all the interviewing, you can't share that. So
So, and that's actually interesting because like this episode, we've kind of broken we've broken the 4th wall or 5th wall, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And this is like kind of how the sausage is made type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, let us know in the comments if you think episodes like this are beneficial. Were these marketing tips useful? Mm-hmm. Did you learn more about the DNS Filter and the DNS Filter brand that was helpful for you? I am curious to understand that from the audience. So definitely let us know in the comments.
And I definitely think there's also, people out there we can reach who, hey, if you're in cybersecurity marketing, this might be helpful for you too. To kind of listen to other people in your industry talking about branding and other things like that. So
yeah, so you're kind of getting out of your box a little bit. So I interview, the whole show premise is basically interviewing people in tech and cybersecurity and entrepreneurship. And now we're, with this conversation, we're able to talk about different things, which could potentially attract more different audiences that may lead to more authentic connections that may result in sales at some point.
Exactly. Because we're the best. They'll find that out as soon as they start watching. Exactly. So
what do you think the guest lineup for a show like DNS Unfiltered should look like? Do you think it's kind of where it needs to be? Have you heard of anybody that you'd be like, oh, I would love to hear this interview from a person?
Yeah, obviously I have a unique perspective. I enjoy every episode of DNS Unfiltered. I get to watch every single one of them and promote them on social media alongside Mikey. So I have a pretty good handle on it, and I really enjoy, even from an outsider's perspective, learning about some of the insights that these industry leaders have, and some of our favorite people at DNS Filter, our favorite friendlies, as we call them, have been on the show, and that's great. think there's always room to expand, and there's a whole lot of interesting people that we could talk to in the Cybersecurity Marketing Society, and expanding past that realm. So I think there are a lot of interesting things we can do with it to, like you said, build more authentic connections and kind of expand the DNS Unfiltered brand.
Very cool. Now I have some rapid questions for
Yeah,
our
let's do it.
marketing professional Abigail Hendren here. I have, what is your go-to productivity tool?
Okay, so I do love Asana. We use Asana at DNS Filter, and I love it. But in my personal daily life, I love Notion. I use Notion every day. It's a really interesting productivity tool if you've never heard of it. And I'm also, unfortunately, a huge Notes app girl. My Notes app, good thing I have OnePass, and good thing I have cybersecurity protection on my phones, because it holds the key to my life. So I love the Notes app. I love Google Calendar. I use my Google Calendar religiously. So those are my favorites.
The Notes app on iOS and the Mac are so good now. They're actually really good.
They are, and you can organize it really well, and it's easily accessible. It's free. It's already on your phone if you have an Apple device, or on your computer, and connects across device. Sometimes I'm on my laptop and I want to make a note of something, and it'll show up on my phone later. So I love the connection.
Yeah, if you want really good syncing for like notes and your grocery list, Notes app on Apple platforms is the way to go.
Yeah, my grocery.
Sorry, Windows users.
Sorry.
Wait, maybe Notes is available for Windows. I don't know. Somebody
So
else.
they have a similar something.
All right, what is so Abigail is an amazing designer, as well as a on-camera talent, video editor, etc. But what is your favorite design software?
Okay, so I'm very loyal to Photoshop. I love Photoshop. I started using Photoshop when I was 13 or 14, but I have to admit, Canva is popping off lately. This is kind of a hot take in the design community, because most designers will say, you're not a real designer if you're not using Adobe Suite, if you're not using Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere, all those things. But I genuinely believe that Canva can do so much. It has so much collaboration capacity. It makes things so much easier if you're ever in a rush. And they're really expanding their capabilities. I think they're going to catch up to Adobe in the next, you can write it here. Abigail Hendren says Canva might catch up to Adobe within the next 5 years. I also am a huge fan of Melanie Perkins, the founder of Canva, the CEO, and I just have a lot of faith in their brand. So while Photoshop is like my nostalgic old time, like I'm married to it, I really love Canva, and Canva's really starting to take the cake for me. So
yeah, I mean, I've used Canva, and it does feel like cheating, but in like a good way, because
it's cheating in a good way.
Like I have things to do.
Exactly. There's no harm in accessibility. And Adobe can be a bit difficult to access and use if you're not design savvy, if you don't have the training, but Canva, anyone can use. And if you're a designer, you'll know how to use Canva in the ways that the everyday person may not. So you can still make your work stand out and still make your work technically sound. But it just really streamlines a lot of processes and makes things very easy, especially with, if I want to work on something, I can tag you in Canva and say, hey, Mikey, come look at this. And you can comment back directly in Canva. And that's a difficult capability in Adobe, and everything is so license based. You can be an outside user and still view my Canva links. So I'm a big fan. I'll say it here.
Canva, the cheat code for design. Love it.
It really is.
So this last one is maybe a stretch for Abigail and her cybersecurity knowledge, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is a cybersecurity myth you'd like to debunk?
Ooh, that's a good one. Cybersecurity myth you'd like to debunk. I'm trying to think. I know I have one, but now that I'm on the spot, I'm going to forget. I don't know. Give me a suggestion. Give me a hint.
A hint? Oh, let's see.
Something I should know.
AI knows more than you think.
I think a myth is that you can't trust AI. Like, I think that a lot of people are really quick to say, I think a huge myth is that I think AI will automate many jobs, but I also think it's a myth that it could completely take a lot of our jobs. I think as long as you're still setting yourself apart. Also, AI is nowhere near enough advanced to take at least my job right now. I'm thinking about, people always say with Mid-Journey and whatever, designers are going to be out of work. It's like, actually, you have to export in certain formats. You have to add text. You've got to, like, especially for vectors, for booth designs and things like that, there's so many things you got to do. So I think my myth is that AI is going to take creative people's jobs because as much as I love AI, Chatiana, as I like to call her, ChatGPT, I gave her our name, is one of my best friends, but she's not taking my job. I still know what I'm doing better than her.
And not only that, but like I've seen Abigail use like Mid Journey, Canva has some AI features, even Photoshop now,
Oh, yeah.
and ChatGPT, like text based things. Like you using those tools is creating more certainly output. And then if you take it into your power user tool and your, your skill level, you can really make those assets shine and produce way more than you could before.
Yeah, I think this, like, the video that you recently helped me out with, that we were working on, is a really interesting example of using AI in creative work, because we wrote a script, and then I put the script into ChatGPT and said, now use this script, prompt Midjourney to create a storyboard for this script. And then so ChatGPT gave me the prompts for Midjourney to create the storyboard. And then I took the images in Midjourney and put them in a different AI software called Minimax to animate the images. And then I went back to ChatGPT and said, give me a prompt for animating these images from Midjourney in Minimax. So it's like you can really pair these up, like the Avengers Infinity War, the rings. Like
Yeah,
you can pair them all up and make your perfect video. And then we got a really cool, unique video that I haven't seen anyone do anything similar, at least in our industry, by doing that. So you have to know how to. I think a huge thing is knowing how to leverage ChatGPT to be able to do more with your job, and all AI, not just Chatiana.
Thanks, Chatiana.
Thanks, Chatiana.
And thank you, Abigail, for joining me today. That was a lot of fun. Should you do the outro too?
Oh, I'll try.
All right,
Thank
go
you
for
for
it.
having me, Mikey, and thank you everyone who joined us for DNS Unfiltered today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed getting to hear a little more from Mikey. He deserves to be heard. He has so much good insight. So thanks for coming today. Drop a comment, whatever you think about this episode. Hopefully good things, and let us know where we should go from here.
Bye.
Bye.